and one nation.
All right, so let's wrap up with our feature where we look at the 20 most historically significant mosques in South Africa. Well, it's arbitrary. I mean, get that. There's no like complete list, okay? But one of the suggestions has been, why don't you find out more about the Pretoria or the Queen Street Mosque, Central Mosque that is in Pretoria. So with me is Ahmed Gani, who's the chairman of the PMC, which is the Pretoria Muslims Congregation. Ahmed, appreciate your time. Salaam alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. How are you, brother Ashraf?
I'm very good
Thanks,
indeed.
thanks,
Good to
thanks very
connect
much.
with you. Thank you. So let's talk about this mosque. I mean, we're into from a historical perspective, right? Take me back to how it started, when it started, who inspired it, who did what.
So the Pretoria Muslim Congregation, the PMC as we know it, was registered and established in 1906. Land for Masjid in Queen Street, in the heart of the capital city, was purchased in the year 1887. Now, this is almost the time that people actually, or Muslims actually arrived in Pretoria at the time.
Yeah, wow.
At first, there was a small little Jamaat Khana built on this land. And at that stage, being the Group Areas Act, non-whites were never allowed to own property in the cities. But for some odd reason, our forefathers were able to achieve the unachievable, which was, getting somewhere along the line. I believe Paul Kruger himself was involved, and they actually arranged a way where we got this land actually transferred into the PMC's name, which was in the year 1906, I believe.
Okay.
In 1928, this masjid finally became proclaimed. It was finally built into a masjid in the year 1928, the masjid ever since. So if you count back now, it's a good 100 years or so.
Well, that 100 years comes up soon. 6 years, inshallah, I'll be there at your celebration. Let's hope that will happen, right? Can you remember? I mean, some of the key founders who inspired the purchase of the land and the building of the mosque. I mean, are there names? I mean, there's a stone, I can see that there, but I mean, are there names that you want to just mention?
I can tell you this. I found a list of the first 9 trustees that were actually present and of this masjid.
Well, mention it very quickly. Go ahead and tell me each one of the 9 very quickly.
So, which were appointed in the year 1906. Names I have is Haji Tayyub, Haji Khan Muhammad, Haji Muhammad Haji Jusuf, Osman Hassam, Haji Ibrahim Haji Essa, Umar Ji Muhammad, Suleiman Ismail Suji, Esop Muhammad Kachalia, Muhammad Ismail, and Haji Sheikh Ahmad Isaac. And the first secretary of the PMC was Mr. N.M. Ayub, and Suleiman Ismail Suji was the first chairman of the society.
Okay, very interesting. How much you know about the early Musallis at the time, and the place of that mosque now in the history of Muslims in Pretoria?
The Muslims actually lived, in Pretoria. Most of the Muslims lived in town in the Prince Lou Street vicinity, and a lot of Muslims lived in the area called Marabastad. So Queen Street Masjid was quite centrally located in the business hub of Pretoria, and it served a big need at the time, without a doubt. It had a big Musalli count even from those days. And over the years, as it has evolved, in 1976, as a matter of fact, this property, which had a lot of land around it, became very viable property to build shopping centers or big retail hubs. And obviously, due to financial constraints, I think at the time, the trustees in 1976 did a land lease agreement with a developer who developed whatever retail centers and office blocks and whatever around it, to which the lease says that in 50 years' time, that entire development becomes PMC's own property again, which means that in the year 2026, this development gets returned to us as a full income stream. So the good thing is that we've been receiving rentals, meager rentals that have been covering all costs and whatever else that the masjid needs for running, and has been a very self-sustaining masjid all these years. It's one of the only masjids that has never ever taken contributions. It's in fact the only one of the only masjids that actually gives contributions to other masajids
Okay,
and
wow.
other institutions.
Alhamdulillah. Let's talk about the design of the mosque. I mean, I've been there, but it's been a while. The design in terms of how many levels, how many people can attend, and that sort of thing.
So this masjid is a very contemporary design. I'm sure there were some pictures that were given out or whatever to your
Mm,
studio.
mm, mm.
You can see we've recently done quite a nice upgrade to the masjid. We had to repaint and reconstruct a few things, and of course, because of its historic architecture, to maintain what that is actually more costly than a normal masjid. It's got all the old facades that need to be maintained and kept upkept. Of course, internally, as you saw, we put in brand new carpeting not too long ago, which will give it a good new lifespan again. And we upgraded a lot of the wuzu facilities and the external of the masjid. But of course, the same architectural of the original has been maintained and
Okay, yeah.
give it its prominent look.
Okay, that's very good, mashallah. Let's talk about I mean, and the type of facilities. I mean, there'll be what prayer rooms. Is there a madrasa? Is there a conference hall, or you don't have that sort of thing there?
No, unfortunately not. The masjid is a pure masjid with facilities for maybe 300-400 musallis. You've obviously got a big courtyard that can maybe facilitate another 100-200 musallis. So you can get a decent crowd of musallis. Of course, we do have madrasa classes that go on regularly for men and for ladies. Our current imam, Maulana Ghulam Hussain, and his wife are residing at the masjid. We've got a proper facility for them, and they do a full-time madrasa class for musallis that come, obviously at a no charge. And besides that, we do a lot of our masjid we contribute a lot towards bursaries. Student bursaries is one of our key roles that we play in for many years now. Of course, like I said earlier, we fund many other masajids that actually have come up over the years in the Pretoria area, and I'll say in many parts of the country have been supported by this masjid over time.
Okay, and that's very good that you've been able to be self-sustaining, which I think is admirable. Let's just lastly talk about the congregation, the demographic. I mean, has that quite changed? It's a theme I've certainly heard from many other people as we talk about other mosques, how the communities around mosques sometimes change, and therefore the entire demographic changes. What's the position with yours?
So as we know, most of the city center hubs are no more as easily accessible as in the past, and of course now with all the suburbs that have come up around with so many other masajids in the area, definitely there's on the general salats, the numbers have dwindled. You've got your demographics have changed. People don't live in the cities anymore like they used to in the past. So your numbers have dwindled quite a bit over the weekdays, especially more in the Isha Salah time and the Fajr Salah time. But Zohr, Asr, Maghrib gets decent Musalli crowd still. And of course, Jummah is always jam-packed in our masjids. Ramadan also, we have a lovely audience coming into the masjid. We also do feeding schemes in Ramadan that sustain a lot of musallis in the area too.
Okay, fascinating. Just before I let you go, is there anything else that is historical and significant about the mosque that you'd like to share with the audience?
Look, this masjid, I'll tell you this. Brother Ashraf, you asked me earlier. I wanted to mention as well. Our first imam was a Maulana Muhammad Ishaq Hazarwi. He was for 28 years gave us service. Even to this date, we have his son, Maulana Ismail Hazarwi, who still also performs in that masjid very from time to time for the last many years. So,
Okay.
the good thing is that the founding participation and founding people that were involved in this masjid still show so much of dedication towards this masjid. And it's actually wonderful to see how people appreciate what this masjid has done and how we still take care of it in that sense. This masjid is regarded by many masjids, especially in the Laudium area, which is now one of the biggest or the most prominent suburbs of Pretoria, Indian
Mm.
suburb. This masjid is regarded as the founding or the mother of all the masjids in Pretoria, because most of the other big masjids today were founded through this masjid. So that
Yeah,
is,
that makes complete sense to me. Yeah. Mm,
yeah,
mm,
that's
mm.
a key historical figure of this masjid.
Well, and I love the architecture. Maybe that's another whole conversation we need to be having in our own right there. Thank you for your time, Ahmed. Appreciate it. Very enlightening. And inshallah, I will visit that mosque sometime soon as well. And
Inshallah.
yeah,
Jazakallah.
with a renewed interest in the historical value of that mosque. It's Ahmed Gani, the chairman of the PMC, which is the acronym for the Pretoria Muslims Congregation. And we're looking at that Queen Street Mosque, the Pretoria Central Mosque, Queen Street in Pretoria. Go and see it and check out the architecture and appreciate the impact and the effort put in to that mosque a long time ago, but a historical day coming up, 4 years from now, 2026. That should be significant. Well, that's it for today's show. We'll do it again tomorrow. Remember, coming up next is just 20 of the Holy Quran recited by Mishari Rashid Al-Fasi. Assalamu alaikum.